Hi there, Eric here to talk a little bit about using a slide board in some frontal plane or side-to-side training. It's a wonderful tool to use, but what I found is many people are not really ready to utilize it in their program because they're not comfortable with side-to-side or frontal plane movements, or they just don't have the hip mobility or stability to take advantage. So we're going to start out with some lower level applications of slide board work and then build up from there. So if someone's not ready to put the booties on and hop on board the slide board, if they don't want to pull a groin or fall down or wipe out, here are some ways to get someone comfortable with frontal plane or side-to-side movements. First of all, just make sure that they have a basic fluency in the frontal plane. This is going to occur off the slide board. Even before I teach lunges or any sort of multi-planar standing movement, I will kind of anchor to this movement here. Have someone squat down into an athletic position. Cervical spine neutral, lumbar spine's neutral. We're just going to step out to the side. I want 80 or 90% of my weight right here in this hip and this thigh, and then to come back in. So we're teaching them to load the stance leg, to reach out, and then come back in. Once they get this for 8 or 9 reps, repeat that on the other side. Our next progression, athletic stance, go out, over, back, and then up. We're shifting our load from hip to hip. Our critical keys here, loading one hip and then the other hip. From there, down, out, over, in, up. Not too much of a progression, but we're accepting load from hip to hip. Once someone gets that, both sides of course, we can then move on to down, out, over, and then up. Once someone has the feel for transferring their weight from hip to hip, you're probably ready to begin your work on the slide board. So we're going to go ahead and get some booties ready, and we're going to step on board in a moment. Start out with your booty on one foot. The other foot's going to be on the ground. Controlled athletic stance, and you want them to load this stance leg with 80 or 90% of their weight and just begin to reach out. If they need some stability, they can use a dowel or a viper. For you viper fans, of course, there are wonderful applications to using contralateral movement in the hip and shoulder, but for now we're just using it for balance. And we're just teaching someone to abduct the hip, to stabilize and come back in. From a fatigue standpoint, the stance leg is getting most of the work, but we're teaching someone to move in the frontal plane and then stabilize on the stance leg here. We'll try that in each direction to make sure there's as much balance as possible. You'll notice that all of us probably move better on one hip than another. Next, I like to add the lateral resistor from Perform Better. It's one of the more comfortable tools for adding resistance around the ankles. Assume that quarter squat or athletic stance, abduct, and adduct. So we're getting concentric action, but also a nice eccentric control, as well as isometric action on this stance leg. Of course, you can do curls, PNF patterns, anything you want to do on the stance leg, or just smile. But we're starting to teach clients to use the decreased friction of the board to move under control at one hip while we maintain stability and squareness throughout the trunk and the pelvis. These are obviously some introductions into the slide board, but it's a nice way to improve that frontal plane fluency for even beginning clients on the slide board.